All right, hello everyone. It's Tuesday. I'm Carly. I'm gonna wait for a couple more people to join before we get this started. Maybe you saw the teaser post today. Maybe you know what we're doing on today's Zoo to You virtual safari, but I'm gonna keep it a surprise in case you don't exactly know. So hi there, we've got a couple people joining. I'm gonna wait for a few more to join us. Just say hi in the comments. Let me know that you're here, what you're excited about for today. And as a reminder, we are doing snakes on today's Zoo to You virtual safari. I'm with our animal ambassador team. We have a couple keepers right on the other side of this camera with a Dumeral's ground boa. So if you love snakes, if you've been waiting for some reptile love on Zoo to You virtual safaris, today is the day. If you don't love snakes, all the more reason to watch. The more you know about these amazing creatures, the more you're going to appreciate them and love them just like our keepers here at the zoo do. So I'm gonna turn it around, and if you like snakes or if you don't, just be prepared. This is Katie and Shannon, and who do you have with you?
Hi guys, we have Jasmine with us today. And like Carly was saying, Jasmine is a female Dumeral's ground boa. So Dumeral's ground boas are found in Madagascar and mostly on the eastern side. So most people think of Madagascar as kind of a tropical place, but Madagascar is such a big island that it has several different types of habitats. And so Jasmine actually lives in a more arid or dry area of Madagascar. And you can't necessarily tell by looking at her right now, but she is actually really good at climbing trees out in Madagascar. So we hold her here at the zoo, but when we are not presenting her in the hand, she has the opportunity to climb and roam about in her enclosure.
And so Katie, I'm gonna pause for 1 second, just say we've got this awesome board that the keepers put together that'll tell you who we're talking about, the name of their species, and then we've covered up their age because we want you to guess. So put your guesses in the comments for how old you think Jasmine is. So tell us a little bit more about Jasmine.
Yeah, so Jasmine came to us when she was pretty young. So whenever you guys guess her age, that's about how long she's been with us at Denver Zoo. And she is one of our 3 snakes that we have in the ambassador department that actually requires 2 people to hold her. So it is for our safety, but also for Jasmine's comfortability. So even with reptiles, we want every single one of our animal ambassadors to be happy and comfortable when they are out being presented to visitors just like you. So we want to make sure that we are the most stable tree or ground for Jasmine to be on. So she's taking full advantage of me and Shannon's arms today and getting nice and comfy over there.
And she was just saying hello there to the camera. Hi to everyone who's joining. We have some great guesses so far. We have someone guessing 7 years old, 18, 3. So we've got a really wide range of guesses, so keep them coming. We'll wait till we have enough so that people feel like they got a chance to guess. And even if you missed the chance to guess on one of the snakes, we're gonna keep bringing more out so you can still keep guessing.
Exactly. So Jasmine is saying hello in her snake fashion by sticking her tongue out. Now for people, sticking our tongue out is not considered very nice, but for snakes, it is perfectly polite. And it is the way that she figures out what is in her surroundings by actually gathering scent particles in the air and putting them back in her mouth to figure out where she's at and what is around her.
Her pattern is very beautiful. What does it help with her in the wild?
That's a great question, Carly. So she is a lot of tans and browns, and that really helps her camouflage up in those trees or on the ground in like leaf litter. And a really cool thing about Jasmine, unlike other snakes, is her eye coloring. If you want to go look at that, if she'll let us. So Jasmine is a nocturnal snake. Does anyone out there know what nocturnal means?
Oh, we can see that the eyes really match her face.
Yeah. So if you know, nocturnal means that they hunt at night and they're active at night. So Jasmine is a snake. She is what's called cold-blooded, so she does have to warm up in the sunshine, but then as soon as it gets kind of dark and her prey can't see very well, she actually goes hunting to eat her prey.
So Anna is asking what kind of snake this is. This is a Dumeral's ground boa. You can see right there on the back board. Those are all the snakes we'll be talking about today, and we're going in order. So this is Jasmine. And yes, Claudine, nocturnal does mean she's awake at night.
Very smart.
Now you tell me when you get a little tired and you are ready to switch off, and then we'll reveal the age and go to our next snake. But is there anything else you want people to know about Jasmine?
Just that she is an awesome snake, and she's probably one of my favorites just because of how relaxed and curious she is.
Well, a question for both of you. Were you afraid of snakes before you started working at zoos and with animals?
No, we're on the spider side of the creatures that are creepy to me. I was scared, yes. I was very scared, but the more I learned about snakes, the less afraid I became. So the more I learned about them and the more that I really appreciated what they did for the environment and how just cool their adaptations are, the more I liked them, and now this is one of my favorite parts of the job.
All right, Tanner just has one question before we say bye to Jasmine. What does she eat and how often does she get fed?
That is a great question, Tanner. So snakes are carnivores, so she eats meat. So out in the wild, out in Madagascar, she would eat anything that she could find, small mammals, maybe some birds, since she likes to climb the trees, and other small reptiles, like maybe some lizards or other snakes. Here at the zoo, she gets rats. So she gets a frozen and then thawed to the right temperature rat. And because she is a little bit bigger, it takes her a little bit longer to digest. So Jasmine actually only gets fed once every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. All right,
Yeah.
we're going to go check on Jasmine's age. We've got a lot of guesses here while we go get Toro, our next snake. So, the big reveal, Jasmine, our Dumeral's ground boa, is 12 years old. So, if you guessed 12, you are right. So, now we have Stephanie here. Stephanie, who do you have?
I have Toro, our bull snake, and this is one of my absolute favorite snakes. You can find these guys right here in Colorado and throughout the United States. So they're very, very common, and they're common for a different reason than you might think. They look an awful lot like another snake that's out there that a lot of people are very afraid of. So these guys sometimes are unfortunately hunted by people because they look like a rattlesnake. But for them, it's actually very helpful that they look like a rattlesnake because that's how they help basically camouflage themselves. They pretend to be a rattlesnake so that other animals don't really bother them. So one of Toro's favorite things to do is to climb around. So we have this pegboard that we use as enrichment for our animals. And our snakes absolutely love to go in and out of those pegs. So he loves to climb around and show off, and he loves to show off how long he is. Do you guys have any guesses on how tall you are? You probably know how tall you are, right?
Yeah,
But
if you go to the doctor, you go get measured.
Right. So how do you think that we might guess how tall, much like a rattlesnake? And what's really cool about bull snakes is they have a special piece of cartilage at the top of their windpipe that they can exhale through really fast and hard, and then it makes this rattling, hissing noise. So they're much louder at hissing than a lot of other snakes out there. So that's yet another thing that helps these guys. Is going to pop around that way. That makes these guys seem a lot more intimidating than really goes off of that trying to look intimidating. So he does hiss and has more of an attitude, I would say, than some of our other snakes. But it's just his normal, natural way of protecting himself. Because if he looks big and bad, other predators might think that he is an actual rattlesnake and leave him alone. But do we have some guesses on that length?
Crosby thinks Toro is 10 feet long.
10 feet long. Cool, cool.
Let's see. 10 feet also from Leo. 6.5 feet. And Lee is also guessing his age of 2 years old. So yeah, just like we revealed Jasmine's age, we're also going to reveal Toro's. So keep those guesses coming too.
Yeah, so one thing that snakes do that's super cool is they shed their skin all at once. So we shed our skin too, but it comes off in little flakes as you go about your life. But these guys grow a whole new set of skin every time they shed that skin off. So we take the shed, which we have here. This is Toro's last shed. So you can see the nice one big piece.
I'm gonna start at the top and go all the way down here. This is his, that's pretty long.
It is very long. So he is not full grown yet. So that'll give a little bit of a hint as to his age. So he's not entirely full grown, and he's grown a lot since we've gotten him. So we track those sheds and we make sure that he's growing at a nice pace. And those sheds, he just shed that off about a week ago. And it looks like he's about 5 to 5.5 feet long.
Wow.
But these guys in the wild can get up to 8 feet. So they're pretty massive and pretty impressive if you should come upon one of these guys on a hike. And you can out here in Colorado. So what I always say with snakes is they're beautiful. So they usually don't want to bother us. They just want to be left alone. So if we admire their beauty from far away and we walk away from them, they're not going to bother us. So we don't have to worry about them coming after us or anything like that. And the same goes for rattlesnakes. Even though he's not a rattlesnake, most rattlesnakes want nothing to do with us either. They just want to be living the stay-at-home life too, right? They want to have their peace. So if we can admire them from afar and then just let them have their peace, then you might be able to see one of these guys on a trail near you.
We've had some questions about why Toro likes to wrap himself up like that.
Yeah, so he is a constrictor. So we talked with Jasmine earlier that she hunts her food, so he's also a carnivore. He hunts for his food, so he's going to be eating mice and even snakes and different small mammals. But
Why he likes to wrap himself
right,
up.
sorry. So he's a constrictor. So once he bites his prey, he is going to wrap his body around the prey and squeeze it until he can swallow it whole. So oftentimes when he's laying around, he likes to kind of curl up and be in a position where he can feel safer that way too, but that's naturally what his body does.
How can you tell the difference between a bull snake and a rattlesnake?
So he's not going to have that full rattle on his tail. And then the pattern is a little bit different for the rattlesnakes. They'll have more of a diamond pattern on their scales, and then their head is a little bit more triangular. If these guys are upset, their heads do kind of flatten out, and it kind of looks like it. But honestly, if you're on a trail and you want to know which is which, don't find out, because then that means you're probably too close. So we can look at them from afar and then maybe get a good picture of it and then go home and look at what you might see as the differences between a rattlesnake and a bull snake.
Lily H8 wants to know if they can swim.
They can. Snakes are pretty good swimmers. They can, so just as they get around on the ground, they use that same back and forth movement to get through the water. So most snakes, certain snakes do prefer water. A bull snake isn't going to prefer water too much, so you're not going to find them. You're going to find them more in dry plains areas because they do like to eat ground mammals. So mammals that are outside of the water, and that's where he's going to be spending most of his time. But if it should get a little bit rainy, he'd be okay too.
We'll take a couple more guesses for Toro's age before we reveal it. And let us know in the comments if your opinion of snakes is changing as you watch this and as you learn more. I know my opinion has changed a lot since I started working here, because the more I know about them, the more I know that they're really a great creature and really important to our ecosystem.
They really are.
And really more friend than foe, as long as we give them their space.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, they're really great for keeping that rodent population at bay, so it's very important. Toro here, as I said, he's still growing, so that hint you got about his age. He's still young and growing, which means he eats a lot more frequently than some of our older snakes do. So he had been eating once a week, and he was up to 2 mice twice a week, and we were able to increase it to 3 mice and then cut him back to every 2 weeks. So now he gets fed every other week, and he eats 3 mice, and that is keeping him growing at a pretty good rate.
Emma's wondering if you can explain how a snake moves.
So their body is just a giant muscle from head to tail, and they use the movement of their muscle back and forth to slither. And what's really cool, we'll see if he lets me show off some of his scoots. So we say they don't have feet, but they have these special scales on the bottom. So they're all in a line. They're called scoots. They're much different than the scales he has on the top. And they help grip the ground as he moves. So it's like each one of those is a little foot that helps him grab onto the ground and then undulate his body back and forth as he moves. So he does do this tail rattle quite a bit, and it's not a sign that he's upset or anything. It's just that he lives on the ground mostly, as bull snakes would, and he is doing that just to let you know that he's there. It's kind of a, hey, don't step on me. Hey, don't worry, I'm still here kind of way. So it's his way of letting us know that, hey, I'm in the area, don't forget about me. So it's kind of his way of greeting, but his greeting is like, hi, stay over there.
Yes, he's saying, hello, keep your distance from me. So I think we're gonna be ready to reveal Toro's age. We have lots of guesses. So I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna reveal the age while we go get Jubilee, our corn snake. So we gave you a hint that he was still growing. Toro is only 2 years old. So he is pretty young. So if you guessed 2, you were correct. So now we have Katie, and I'll ask you guys if you notice a pattern in how we're going through these snakes. We started with Jubilee, who needed 2 people. Then we saw Toro, and now, we started with Jasmine, who needed 2 people. And now we have Jubilee, a corn snake. So Katie, tell us about Jubilee.
Yeah, so I want everyone to guess maybe why she's called a corn snake real quick. So she has a really pretty pattern, in my opinion. But this is just one pattern that you can find in corn snakes. There are a lot of different variations in colors in corn snakes. In the last 2 snakes we saw, that's a pretty average pattern in color. But with corn snakes, it can be really different. So we actually have 3 corn snakes here at Denver Zoo in the ambassador department, and they all look distinctly different. Jubilee has these nice spots kind of outlined in black. One of our corn snakes is all red with kind of an orangish belly. And then one of our corn snakes is all orange with a reddish belly.
We have a guess that Lee says they eat mice in corn silos, or she lives in cornfields.
Cornfields. And who is that?
That was from Lee.
Lee, you are exactly right. Great job. So yeah, they don't eat corn, which is sometimes the guess that we get. But she is also still a carnivore, just like our other snakes. And she does eat mice. And she is found kind of where corn grows. And another reason they're called a corn snake is actually because of the way they look, but not on top, on bottom. So they kind of have that checkered pattern, which all corn snakes have. So while the top of them varies a lot in color, the bottom is pretty similar, and it kind of looks like maize, or another word for corn.
So anyone who guessed that they look like corn, that's a great guess. That's partially right. And then the other reason is that's where they get their food.
Exactly. So cornfields and other grain fields of farmers are a great place for mice to hang out, because mice eat vegetables and grains and things like that. But then that's also a great place for snakes to hang out, especially corn snakes, because then they can eat the mice. And it's a nice balance to our ecosystem, which is what we were saying earlier about how important snakes are to our ecosystem. They are a huge check and balance system to make sure we don't get too many mice out there.
What else can you tell us about Jubilee? And also remember, put your guesses for her age in the comment section. Oh, Katie wants to know, does the tongue tickle?
Does the tongue tickle? Luckily, I don't get touched by the tongue too often. They don't actually like to touch things with their tongue unless they're eating. But the few times that I have, yes, it does tickle. But I'm very ticklish, so maybe it wouldn't tickle to other people.
She's very similar to Toro, it looks like, in that she's kind of wrapping herself up, coiling. What are some of the similarities and differences with Jubilee the corn snake and Toro the bull snake?
Yeah, so a lot of similarities, like the color pattern. They're both carnivores. They're both snakes. But one of the main differences is where they're found and kind of their behavior. So Toro is a little bit more bold, our bull snake, and he'll tell you that he's there, and he'll say, hey, back off. While Jubilee and other corn snakes are a little bit more shy, and they'll kind of use their flight instead of fight response, and they're just going to go hide and try to stay out of people's way, and they're really going to try to make themselves not known. So that's the biggest difference. And then they are found, while Toro is found up here in kind of the northwest United States, corn snakes are found in the southeast United States and other parts of North America.
Rick has a great question. How can you tell that she's a girl?
That is an awesome question, and it is very hard. So just by looking at her body, you can't. So we are so lucky here at Denver Zoo to have an amazing veterinary staff and veterinary department that can take blood samples from our snakes and actually send it to a lab, and that is how we know for sure that our animals are either male or female.
So let's see. Leo asks, are corn snakes also nocturnal?
They are not. That's an awesome question. They are the complete opposite, and they are what's called diurnal, which means they're awake during the day. So mice are pretty active during the day. So most predators, things that eat other animals, are going to be awake when their prey is awake so that they can eat it. So since mice are pretty active during the day, so are the corn snakes.
Jane, age 6, wants to know how snakes hear.
How they hear? Not very well, honestly. So they do have teeny tiny ear holes that sometimes I have a very hard time seeing in smaller snakes, and sometimes not even at all. Sometimes they're hidden by scales.
That's where they would be. I've got it in the right area.
And so they don't hear very well at all. The biggest thing they use is the vibrations in the ground or trees that they're in, and they use heat sensing. So that's something very unique to snakes, is that they have pits in their face, most of them, some of them. Since corn snakes are awake during the day, they use more eyesight, but like Jasmine, who hunts at night, she'll use heat pits on the front of her face to kind of sense where hot things like her prey are.
Do corn snakes have any predators?
They do. So here in North America, any medium-sized to small mammal might try to grab a corn snake. And then a lot of birds of prey, hawks and raptors and things like that, would definitely try to go after a corn snake.
Harper and Wyatt want to know if the snakes at the zoo have babies.
So here in the Animal Ambassador Department, they don't, because we just want to educate people about these animals. And a lot of the animals that we have like to live alone. So Jubilee definitely likes her personal space. All of our snakes are really good at social distancing. But some snakes over in our Tropical Discovery building are part of breeding programs, and they have babies.
Christina wants to know, her 10-year-old wants to know how old or how strong, what is the snake's strongest sense?
Strongest sense? That would definitely depend on the snake, but feel or touch is a really big one for snakes because their whole body is sensitive to that. Unlike us, we have like certain areas in our hands, but I think their sense of smell, like with their tongue, is probably their most honed in sense, where they grab those particles with their tongue and put them up in an organ called a Jacobson's organ, and they can figure out where they are. That's very unique to snakes, so I think that's probably their best sense.
All right, last call for guesses for Jubilee's age before we reveal. We have a couple questions. Is she affected by cold weather in winter, and where would she go?
So she definitely is. So Jubilee has a very comfortable life here at Denver Zoo. So she gets heat pads and heat lamps and things like that, and she lives inside. But if a wild corn snake were getting cold, they would bury in the ground. But they also live and are very prominent in places like Florida and in the South, where it actually doesn't get too cold. So they usually don't have to worry about it too much.
All right, so we have a lot of guesses on the younger side, 6, 8, 10. So we're going to say bye to Jubilee, reveal her age, and bring out Penelope. But Jubilee is 16 years old. So she's small. She's the smallest snake we've seen so far, but she's already 16 years old. So we're going to meet Penelope now. Penelope is a Western Hognose, and Shannon is going to tell us about Penelope.
Hi there, guys. This is Penelope, and she is our wonderful little actress. So, hognose snakes have several behaviors. So they like to burrow around in dirt and sand looking for their prey. They can be found in sort of the central United States, all the way from below Canada to above Mexico. So this is also a species you can find right here in your own backyard. And she does share sort of a similar look to Toro. You can see that coloration.
So that also helps her blend in with the rocks and sand, because these guys like to live in sort of shrubland, desert, arid environments. So, yeah, one of the things that she does do is pretend to be a rattlesnake.
Just
Sort of
like Toro.
That is one of the behaviors she has. She does have another big one that they do and are known for. So she will also flatten out her head like Toro, and then she will also rattle her tail, much in the same way, pretending to be a rattlesnake. So a lot of animals that are sort of like monarch butterflies, they look like those venomous or poisonous animals to help protect themselves, but they're actually harmless themselves.
So Penelope is not venomous.
Actually, she is.
Oh.
She is the only venomous snake in our ambassador collection. And the only reason that I feel comfortable handling a venomous snake is because that venom actually is not, it doesn't affect humans.
Oh, and very interesting.
Yeah,
Everett is almost 4. She says, that is a very cute snake.
She is adorable with that little upturned nose of hers. She is my favorite.
And she's definitely smaller, so we're going in size order. If I'm giving that away, sorry, but we are going from kind of our largest to our smallest snakes that we have out today. We definitely have snakes larger than Jasmine, but we didn't want to tire ourselves out too much. And keep guessing for how old you think Penelope, the Western Hognose, is. So she looks a little bit different than Toro. What other differences do they have? And there's her little fake rattle tail, if you were curious.
So also, with that venom, her fangs, they're tiny, and they're actually more in the rear of her mouth. So unlike a lot of other venomous snakes that have their fangs right in the front of their mouth, their long, needle-looking teeth, she has tiny little fangs. You can barely call them that. They look like tiny little, maybe thorns sitting in the back of her mouth. And that's to help her hunt her prey. Her favorite prey are actually amphibians. So frogs and toads. So instead of those mice, these guys are going to be looking for frogs hiding underneath the earth. So they have that nose to help dig them up. And then frogs obviously don't like to be eaten, but when they do find a snake, when they encounter a snake, frogs will puff themselves up to make themselves as big as possible. And those rear fangs actually help hognose snakes sort of pop the balloon to allow them to swallow them.
Oh, wow. Do we know how long Penelope is?
I don't have a shed of her personally. She's a lot smaller than the other snakes you have seen. These guys can get to be around 2 feet in length, so she can get a little bit bigger. So not fully grown quite yet, but not loads bigger. She's not going to reach Jasmine's size.
So as people are guessing her age, can we give them a clue? Is she full grown or is she still growing?
She is still growing. Snakes will continuously grow throughout their lifetime as they have the resources to continue growing. They will reach out sort of a max size, but they can, little by little, they don't grow feet at a time, but inch by inch.
It looks like Penelope's kind of scales or skin are a little bit thicker and rougher than Toro's, not so shiny and smooth.
Yeah, so she has rougher scales. So depending on where a snake lives, their scales are definitely adapted to help them live about. Hers do look a little bit more rougher than Toro's, but she does like to burrow and stuff, so they are smooth going this way and sort of rougher going that way.
Hi, Kara. We're going to answer the question of what the average lifespan of a snake is at the end of this live. Once we've revealed all of the ages, it'll kind of help everyone make a guess of what that is. Sabrina, age 7, wants to know, what does Penelope eat?
So Penelope likes to eat, or here at the zoo, we feed her thawed rats and mice, she gets tiny mice, so more of the fuzzy, so small mice. But in their natural environment, they would be hunting down amphibians.
All right, so let's see. I think we have a lot of age guesses here. We have 9, 4, 7, 5. Let's go check to see what Penelope's age is. Thank you so much, Shannon. Okay, Penelope, the Western Hognose, is 7. So if you guessed 7, you are correct. Okay, and now here's a fun one from Stephanie. We have a box of sand here.
We do, yes. There's actually a snake in there. And as you said earlier, going in order of size. So our little guy is in here. We just have to find him. He is a Kenyan Sambo, so we kind of have to just uncover him from all of that sand. Want to make sure that we uncover his back so that he doesn't hurt his spine at all when we pull him out. But this little guy is Sandy.
I think that's a very appropriate
he's
name.
Sandy, and his name is Sandy. So these guys are known for burrowing in the sand. They come from northern Africa and sandy regions. And something that, if you can get close enough to kind of see, his eyes are super duper tiny, but they're more on top of his head than they are on the sides of his head, like many of the other snakes we've seen. And that's because when he digs into the sand, just his little head sticks out so that he can ambush his prey when he goes to eat. And he can see where he's looking, but more importantly, stick out that tongue. Now, we talked about the senses before, of which senses are good with snakes. So their eyesight is particularly bad for one very important reason. These guys are covered in scales from head to toe, including their eyeballs. So they have a scale that sits over their eye called an eye cap, and it helps protect their eyes. They don't blink like we do. In one of my favorite movies ever, there was only one inconsistency in Harry Potter when the snake winks at him. That's the only thing. Yep. Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go. This is a good way to
caps.
see that eye cap.
Yeah. These guys don't have eyelids, so they can't possibly blink. And that helps protect them. They don't have to worry about having to rub sand off of their eyes or dirt or anything else because they're already protected with that little eye cap. So that sense of smell is pretty important for him to have that tongue sticking out. But something that's really neat for for this snake in particular that's different than all the rest of the snakes we've seen, he's what we call sexually dimorphic, which means the males and females look very different. I know somebody had asked a question earlier, how do we tell the difference between boys and girls? With most snakes, it's very, very difficult. But with these guys, it's easy to tell by their size. So this is Sandy, he is a male, and this is Mombasa, and she is a female. So you can see that there's a huge size difference. She's about triple to 4 times the size of Sandy. And female sandboas can get to be about 2 to 3 feet in length, where this is about the max, which is maybe a foot for little Sandy. So very, very different in sizes between the sexes, so it's pretty easy to tell the difference.
Bye, Mombasa. And we just wanted to show how different these two are in size and how rare it is to have a female snake be so much larger than the male.
Yeah. So what's really cool too is, if you can get really close and look at those scales. So since he lives in such a different environment than the rest of these snakes that we've seen, we can see the difference with their snakes. It's very shiny, almost pearl-like, and that really helps him burrow into the ground, into that sand, and it kind of helps that sand roll off of his body. But before we go, I want to show off how he digs into the sand. So if you have any questions before I put him back in the sand.
We do have a couple questions. Let's see. What does Sandy eat? Everyone wants to know.
Sandy will eat small mammals, so small mice and things like that. So anything that he can ambush when he's sitting into the sand, and then he's going to strike it. A very good rule of thumbs with snakes is that they can't eat anything bigger than the biggest part of their body. So they can stretch that jaw open pretty far. They don't have a hinge like we do, so their mouth can open as far as their skin can stretch in their mouth. But the biggest size it's a good estimate, is the middle size of their body. That's about the size. So for him, it's going to be small young mice or different types of small mammals.
Let's see. Oh, I see. I like Sandy because Sandy looks like how I would draw a snake.
Yes.
Kind of eyes on the top of the head, just sort of, straight, short. So I really like Sandy. So let's watch him burrow because he's so cool.
Yeah. So it might take him a minute, but he usually likes to not go up. It's need to go down.
We have some questions for the keepers. Is it hard to gain trust with a snake and let them be handled like this?
It definitely is. So Toro is a really good example. We've had Toro from the time he was a very young baby, and he was probably just a little bit bigger than Sandy is now. And as we said earlier, he's about 5.5 feet long. So he's grown a lot in his 2 years. But they are not, they do get used to people handling them, but they don't form bonds with people like some other animals do, kind of like parrots and stuff like that. So it's more of just a lifestyle that they get used to, and as ambassadors, their lifestyle is coming out and meeting the public and being handled. So we want to do the best job that we possibly can for our snakes to make them happy and healthy. And we do watch. If a snake doesn't trust us, never gets used to being handled, they don't have to be an ambassador animal. That might not be the role that's suited for them. But we watch a lot of their body language, make sure that they're nice and happy, and if they are comfortable snack.
So
And
Sandy's really teasing us here.
Yes,
He went
he
right
is.
into that sand just a couple minutes before we started.
Yes.
Rachel wants to know, do snakes try to trick head look like their tail?
Yes, some do. I would say he does. His tail, oh, there he goes, finally. His tail does look a lot like his head. It's a lot wider. So I would say yes, some of them do, but not all species.
So why does he burrow into the sand like this? What benefit does he get from being under the sand?
Well, he gets to hide himself. He is pretty tiny, so he gets to hide from other predators. And then he gets to use the element of surprise to attack his prey. So when he's fully underneath, as we saw when we first got him, as he doesn't want to do right now, he can completely hide himself, and then just the tip of his nose and eyes will be sticking out so that he can attack and surprise a prey item that way. But also, since he comes from northern Africa, it gets really, really hot there. And even though these guys handle heat very well, they can get too hot. So burrowing underneath the sand will really cool him down and help him keep a better temperature.
Hi, Ethan. This is the Kenyan Sambo, and this is Sandy. And after a few false starts, he might be going under the sand for the time being.
Yes.
Not for good. He'll eventually come back up.
Yeah.
But he's been looking for sort of a good entry that he can get his whole body under the sand in one fell swoop. So we're going to say bye to Sandy, or he's more saying bye to us,
Yes.
by going under the sand. And then we'll reveal his age, and then we'll answer the question a lot of people have been asking, what's the average lifespan of these snakes? So one last question while we've still got Sandy here. How does he breathe when he's under the sand?
So he's going to be poking his nose up out of the sand. So he's actually going to hold his breath while he's digging in, and then eventually he's going to find a spot for his nose to come up so that he can breathe.
Can you all see the sand itself moving here? You can tell where he is because there's just a little bit of movement on the sand. So his tail's almost there. He's still looking for some more space, but you can kind of see there in the center of the screen, and then you make a squiggly back. That's where he's hiding out right now. So eventually we'll see his little nose peek under, but for now, let's reveal his age. Ta-da! He is 19 years old. He is our oldest of the 5 snakes that you've seen today. Oh, thank you so much for donating, Anna. And there he goes. Oh my gosh, he's almost gone, you guys. Who thinks they can see where he's gonna poke out his head in this little box? I think I can see it, but I have a better vantage point. All right, that is so cool. You have just watched Sandy the Kenyan Sambo burrow himself under the sand. He's completely hidden now, but he will poke out his head so that he can both breathe and keep an eye on any prey.
Yep.
All right, so that is all we've got for today. We've introduced you to 5 amazing snakes. Here's a refresher in case you missed any of them. We have Jasmine, the Dumeral's ground boa, Toro, the bull snake, Jubilee, the corn snake, Penelope, the western hognose, and Sandy, the Kenyan sand boa. So thank you all so much. And then that last answer, Stephanie, what is the average lifespan of these snakes?
Now, it definitely depends on species, but for most snakes, it's around 20 years. Some can get as old as 30 or a little bit older, and in the wild, it's going to be a lot less, just because they do have predators. But here, with human care, usually about 20 to 30 years.
Awesome. If you have any more questions, we'll take a few more. I think Sandy has poked his little nose out so that he can breathe. There he is. And that's where he'll stay until he sees a predator or prey, or the next time we want to bring him out. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you missed any of this from the beginning, if you missed any of those snakes, we'll have this full video on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Denver Zoo, and we'll put that on there. Let's see, we might have one more question. Nope, that's it for today. Thank you so much, everyone who's donated, watched. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m.